Hello my lovely ravens, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel and today we are making Ollivanders from the Hogwarts Legacy game. That's right, I took it upon myself to take 3 weeks to make this project. That is how long it took me. I am starting off with a wooden board for the base, and the walls of this shop will be made from foam core. Before I put the windows up, I plan this out as well as I can and place all the windows, cut out the windows and put all the details in as much as I can before putting the walls up. I am then stripping the foam core board from its paper so I can carve in the bricks on the outside into the foam. Some of the details I am cutting out with my Cricut, and this is so that I don't have to have the tedious task of cutting out all those little windows out of the cardstock. Anyway, moving on, I am placing the walls here on the wooden board here. This board is 8 by 10 inches. I will try to put most of the supplies that I use in this video in the description box below. So if you want to purchase anything, you can have a look there. Also, these are affiliate links. If you purchase anything through these links, you will support my channel as well at no extra cost to you. Here you can see me place the windows inside the cavities. I cut them in such a way that I only had to fold the sides over and then I can just slide the windows in. The tops of the windows and the base of the windows will be made from balsa wood, and the floor on the inside will be balsa wood as well. But before I place the floor, I'm going to paint the walls a blue. It depends on the light in the game what kind of color the wall is, but I think it is a blue. The foam core does take paint well, but you probably have to do a couple of layers for the foam not to show through. Now, before I painted this wall, I was laying out these wooden bits of balsa wood, and you can see me gluing them on here with the walls painted. I jumped all over the place with this project. It was such a full-on and detailed project, and it took a lot of my brain power, to be honest. Going in with the details here, around the edges of the inside of the windows, I'm putting a frame made out of cardstock, and on the outside of the door, I am putting an edge of balsa wood, thin strips of balsa wood. And this is like a little, it looks like a cake that I put together, which is the top is balsa wood and then around it is cardstock as well. I built up a lot of layers of cardstock to get that layered look that the Ollivander shop has. Also, you will notice that this Ollivander shop is quite different from the movie one. This is the one in Hogsmeade in the game, and the Ollivanders that we know from the movies is in Diagon Alley. So definitely a different shop. Same name, different shop. Now I'm filling up this gap with some wall spackle just to even out that wall. And here is the top of the house that I made separately, so I can take it off if I want to. And then underneath we have these details that I cut with my laser cutter. Also, excuse the bloody nails. It is winter here, and my nails and my hands always suffer from the going from warm to cold weather. I put magnets at the back of that roof, as you just saw, and that just clips on, and the top of the roof also clips onto the base of the build with magnets. Where the little green dots are, that's where the magnets are. And then I am cutting out, I struggled so much with this. This is not a tutorial. This is just me showing how I did it. Cutting out these windows in the shape that were going to be the windows on the outside, so I can make that little build behind that frame and then just pop it in. And this is the detailing on the build so far. I will also do that on the chimney as well. Here I am creating these stairs that are going on the outside, and I will put the mixture of baking soda and paint on there. I will leave the recipe in the description box below. I have used this before, and it gives this very fine grit paint, almost like a little kind of wall paint that is great for miniatures. And here we're moving on to the shingles. The most tedious part, I suppose, of this build, besides figuring out how to build this, placing all the shingles individually, cutting them individually out of egg carton. And I am also doing that with the flooring for the outside of the building, and making little pebble stones and placing them individually. And this is what that looks like. Tedious, but reusing materials that we usually put in the bin, and they have a great texture as well. I love using egg cartons for miniatures. Now on to the fun part, painting. I am mostly using folk art for this part, and I'm also giving the outside of the building a base layer of brown, and this is where we get the true transformation of this build. This is just some off-white or like ivory kind of white color for those tops, and where you get that real Tudor look of that house or building, I should say. Base layer done, and now it's on to dry brushing. I'm starting with a gray, and then later I'm going into a tan color. I believe that color from folk art is actually called tan. And I'm also brushing on some mossy greens because that is what I saw in the game. This part is going underneath that front curved window, and I'm putting that on last because the floor needed to go underneath there. Now this is for the balustrade at the back of the building on the stairs, and I'm also going to line that with a piece of twine. I don't think I filmed that, but it's just a piece of twine stuck on and painted. This is tea and dry tea. And I am just laying that on top and spreading it out with my fingers and with a brush to go in between all the cavities, and then going over with a very watered down PVA glue. And this worked perfectly to recreate soil. Then painting all the details on the inside of the building, and of course the floor as well with some watered down acrylic paint. Works great for staining wood. And then on the outside, I'm also using some European dust wash, and this will just give it a little bit more of a brown tinge, tone it down a little bit. With some chalk pastel, I am going around all the edges to give it a weathered look, so it's not a brand new building. And then from a piece of cardstock that you see here, I cut that to size for the back of the wall, and then outside of the building I am building this cabinet where all the wands will be in. I enjoyed making this cabinet. It didn't need to be straight or anything like that. I love this. I love the whimsical look of it, and this is made from, the back is cardstock, and then the rest is balsa wood, and then again staining that with a watered down acrylic paint. This is a very red color, and I do tone it down eventually. These are all the wand boxes that will be placed inside the building. You can guess how many I used. A lot. Over 250 wand boxes are in this building. And I just cut them with my laser cutter. This is MDF wood. cut them with my laser cutter, stained them with Sharpies and alcohol markers, and this is how I will place them inside. Once they're all glued down, I paint the edges, and then I go over with an ivory color to paint all the labels, and then I scribble on to make it look like a label. This is a piece of blue fabric, and I'm just going in with a Posca pen to make that pattern, and also with a white gel pen. Worked great. Then toning that down with some watered down acrylic paint to give that aged look to this little rug. From some polymer clay, I make bulbs. This is not my greatest sculpt that I've ever done, but it is serving its purpose, I suppose. I started with these teardrop ones, and then I eventually made them all into round bulbs, but it works. Now, wiring this whole thing was a bit of a thing. This is the outside lamp, so that one needed to go first, then wiring that through the inside and up, and this is the chandelier. I also wanted to have a light on the counter, but I ran out of lights and that would not reach at all, so I did not put that one in, but hey, at least we have some lights in there. This is me making the curtains, just some white, very thin, flexible fabric. I paint that with a light blue acrylic paint and let that dry, and then it's somewhat pliable and a little bit stiffer than the initial fabric, which holds its shape perfectly, and then gluing that on the inside, and then hand drawing the word Ollivanders, fine ones, makers of fine ones since 382 BC, and then going over with a gold acrylic paint. I really enjoyed this build, but I have to say it was also a very long and tedious build. It took me 3 weeks to build this, but I hope you enjoyed the process and seeing how I put this whole build together. All my social media can be found in the description box below, and if you're new here, welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell notification button so you don't miss out on any future videos, and of course, become part of the Raven family. Thanks so much for watching, stay safe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!